So last time I talked about a quick little warm up. Um, I've lost my pencil. Um, Drawing 3-point perspective, just drawing little boxes using 3-point perspective as a kind of handy exercise to warm up in the morning. This time I thought I would talk about some general principles of freehand drawing. Um, I mentioned that I tend to draw from my wrist, and I tend to draw from the bottom up. Um, you're going to have your own way of holding a pencil and your own mechanics of your arm and your wrist. But I grip the pencil rather loosely. Sometimes I back it up way. If I'm drawing an arc, I'll pull the pencil way back here, and I will. You can see you want a smooth arc. It's a wrist motion is desirable. And you want to be able to kind of repeat it. You want to be able to go over the same motion again. And you don't want to dig into the paper and get it really dark right away. I'm using a light blue pencil. Now I'm using a graphite pencil. And you can get a pretty smooth arc, and you can see you can go in one line, one pass. You can kind of sketch a little bit in short segments if you're a little more tentative. Depends on what you're going after. But if you want a smooth arc, you could also use a compass, one of those devices where you trace a circle. But I like to just follow the natural movement of my wrist. And if you get tired of drawing boxes, as I showed in the last video, you can mix it up and do some other shapes. I like a little bit of arc to my drawing. It makes it just a little bit bouncy, a little bit flexible, makes it breathe a little bit. And when I'm doing, let's say I'm doing a logo or sound effects or something, I like to be able to repeat the arc. And I'm working at a pretty fast rhythm here. You can take your time. You'll probably, if you're just beginning to grapple with these concepts, you'll probably work a little slower and be a little more fussy. That's natural. But I like to get into a decent rhythm where things are moving along at a pretty good clip. You can see I'm holding the pencil very far back. I'm holding the pencil very far back. As you can see, I'm holding the pencil very far back. You could hold the pencil very close. That's tends to get a little cramped. I find as I get older, I hold the pencil a little farther back. It just makes it makes my uh, makes the pivot of my wrist into more of a compass shape. You could use a compass. Nothing wrong with that. Compass is a simple instrument used to make oops, drawing it backwards. Arcs, circles. I'm simply using my wrist to pivot from about right here. I'm just kind of using my wrist as an organic compass. And if you hold the pencil, well, pretty far out, you can get a pretty smooth arc. And as I said, you can use pencil, you can use ballpoint pen, you can use ink. I've got to hold my paper down with a little burnisher here. And you have the right combination of a grip, it's relaxed, and a smooth motion in your wrist, you can actually do a pretty good job of getting a smooth arc freehand style without a lot of cumbersome tools. I'll talk about some tools in just a minute. Put my sketchbook around here like this. I move my paper around, as you can see, to get the maximum advantage with my natural motion. And this is a little bit rough, but it's just a memory. This is a very simple refill pen. This is a Bioke. You can see the refillable brush pen. Very inexpensive. You can get these on Amazon. Get a set of them for $5 or $6 or something like that. I also use sable brushes. I'll demonstrate those one of these days. But here you go, three-dimensional lettering. Too many pencils on my drawing board. Something like that. And just clean it up a little bit. Put some white out. There's some erasers. That's why we put erasers on the ends of pencils. Because people make mistakes. You get rid of those distracting lines. Just a little bit. Now these letters are all straight lines, right? They're all, there's no curves. Sloppy corrections. A little more difficult would be letters with curves in it, like the letter S. All I can say is practice your letter S's. There's a fairly decent S. Take your time. Like I said, I move at a pretty quick pace. I've been doing this for a while. But take your time. Don't get frustrated with every result that's not optimal. Probably spent hours doing three-dimensional lettering just since third grade or thereabouts. Usually I go with the flow of my hand, but sometimes I do kind of a reverse curve. That takes some practice, but you may find that you can have a little better control sometimes by going in the opposite direction from the curve of your hand. So in other words, your natural curve would be like this, but you can also do a reverse angle or a reverse curve like that, especially for tighter spots. A little bit of different muscle motion. So practice different approaches. There are also tools like French curves that are very useful. This is a pretty standard shape of a French curve. I have a variety of French curves. They usually come in a set of three, like this. I basically use this one. I find that I tend to use one thing more than others. I have, this is another brand, Alvin, see-through. Lots of different manufacturers make these. They're more or less identical shapes that you can find. This one's a slightly different shape, obviously, than this. This one tends to fit my hand very well. So in other words, here's what you can draw your curves with a French curve. That gets a very nice result. I find that when I'm freehand drawing, um, I tend to draw freehand like this if I'm doing some lettering guidelines or something like that. I find that this particular French curve fits my hand pretty closely, so when I ink I will use, uh, I'll use this French curve to do the inking, to be real precise if I want to. But I have a variety of tools that I use, or at least I have them on hand. I tend to do most of my stuff freehand, something like that. Of course, you can always clean it up. I have a variety of tools, as I say, that I utilize. I have ellipse templates. I have circular templates. Um, I have compasses. I have straight edges, as you can see. All kinds of tools that I use. But the nice thing about freehand drawing is it gives a little bit of a flexibility to your drawing. It gives it a little bit of bounce. Um, I tend to not hold my pencil. If I do hold my pencil a little closer, if I'm using finger muscles like here, um, it's for like, straggly hair or bristly hair like that. If I'm going for a smooth arc, I find that holding the pencil a little bit further back, using the wrist motion, sometimes even the elbow motion, I don't know, it gets a real smooth arc. I think that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. So have fun, relax, get a sketchbook, fill it up, practice, 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 and I'll talk to you soon.